The first time it happened, he didn't even notice. He was standing there, holding a crumpled sandwich in his hands, offering it to a little stray dog shivering by the curb. People walking by snickered, whispering to each other, shaking their heads. "Look at that weirdo," one of them muttered. "Giving his lunch to a dog?" They laughed. But he didn't care. He simply smiled, knelt down, and gently placed the sandwich in front of the trembling little creature. That simple act, unnoticed at first, would soon spark a chain of events no one could have predicted. Hey there, friends! Before we dive deeper into this story, if you enjoy heartwarming tales of kindness, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you, and every interaction helps spread a little more kindness in the world. It all started in a small town, the kind where everyone knows everyone's business. There lived a man named Tom, quiet, unassuming, and often overlooked. He didn't have flashy cars, fancy clothes, or a job that made him famous. Tom worked at the local grocery store, stocking shelves and helping customers find what they needed. But what he lacked in wealth or status, he made up for in compassion. One chilly autumn afternoon, as the leaves fell like golden rain, Tom noticed a small dog shivering outside the store. Its coat was matted, and its eyes were full of fear. Most people just hurried past, too busy with their own lives to notice. But not Tom. He went home, grabbed a sandwich, and returned. He knelt on the cold sidewalk, talking softly to the dog, coaxing it to eat. A few teenagers passing by laughed so hard they could barely walk. "Who does that?" one of them said, pointing at him. "Feeding a dirty mutt like it's a person?" Their laughter echoed down the street, cruel and unkind. But Tom ignored them. In that moment, all that mattered was the tiny life in front of him. Hungry and alone that evening, Tom went home feeling peaceful. He didn't know that the dog, whom he named Buddy, would soon change his life. Buddy was more than just a stray, he was smart, loyal, and incredibly intuitive. By the next morning, Buddy had taken up residence on Tom's porch, wagging his tail at every passerby, making friends without saying a word. Weeks went by, and something remarkable happened. The people who once laughed at Tom began noticing him, but not for the reasons they thought. Buddy had a way of bringing joy wherever he went. Children stopped by to pet him, neighbors began chatting with Tom, and even some of the teenagers who had mocked him paused to admire the dog's loyalty and spirit. Tom never sought recognition. He just quietly helped wherever he could, donating leftover food to the local shelter, helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries, or lending a hand when someone was struggling. Then came the day that truly turned the town upside down. The local park was hosting its annual festival, full of music, food trucks, and families. Tom decided to volunteer, as he often did, helping set up tents and organize activities for the kids. Buddy followed him, naturally, running around and bringing smiles to everyone's faces. During the festival, disaster struck. A small child wandered too close to the lake's edge and slipped, falling into the water. Panic erupted. Parents screamed, and people rushed toward the scene. Without thinking, Tom dove in, pulling the child to safety. Water poured down his clothes, and the child clung to him, terrified but safe. Buddy barked frantically, circling them, as if to make sure everyone knew who the real heroes were. The teenagers who once laughed at him were now speechless. Their laughter had vanished, replaced by awe and admiration. Tom had risked his life for someone he didn't even know, just because it was the right thing to do. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Tom was the center of attention, not for being different or unusual, but for his courage, his kindness, and his selflessness. News of the rescue spread quickly. Local newspapers ran the story: grocery store employees saves child from lake, heroic dog by his side. Suddenly, Tom was being invited to speak at schools, community centers, and local events. But despite all the attention, he remained humble. He never sought fame or praise. In interviews, he always said, "I just did what anyone would do." Buddy was the real inspiration. What happened next surprised everyone. The very people who had laughed at him began approaching him, apologizing, and trying to make amends. They realized that true courage and kindness aren't flashy or loud, they are quiet, consistent, and compassionate. Tom didn't hold grudges. He smiled warmly, shook their hands, and even invited them to help with his volunteer work at the shelter. Slowly, the town began to change. One act of kindness at a time. Buddy became the unofficial mascot of the town. Children adored him, families loved him, and even adults found themselves stopping in their tracks just to smile at his joyful energy. Tom and Buddy's story became a daily reminder that kindness has a ripple effect. It spreads farther and wider than anyone can imagine. What started as a small act, giving a sandwich to a stray dog, had transformed an entire community. One evening, as Tom sat on his porch with Buddy curled up beside him, he reflected on everything that had happened. He thought about the laughter, the judgment, and the doubt he had faced. And he realized something profound: the laughter never truly mattered. What mattered was staying true to his values, helping others, and showing compassion, no matter how small the gesture. The town, too, had learned a lesson. People started paying more attention to their neighbors, helping strangers, and showing gratitude for the little things. The local grocery store even put up a small plaque near the entrance, reading, "In honor of Tom and Buddy, proof that kindness can change the world." As months turned into years, Tom and Buddy continued their mission quietly. They didn't need recognition, they didn't need applause. Their joy came from knowing they had made a difference, one small act at a time. And the people who had once mocked Tom? They were now the biggest advocates for kindness in the town, often sharing Tom and Buddy's story as an example of how compassion, humility, and courage can transform lives. What this story teaches us is simple yet powerful. Kindness isn't about doing something big to impress others. It's about noticing the small needs around us and acting with a full heart. Sometimes, people will laugh, doubt, or even criticize you. But true kindness doesn't seek approval. It persists quietly, faithfully, and generously, and in the end, it always leaves an impact. The next time you see someone in need, a person, an animal, or even just a moment where your help could make a difference, remember Tom and Buddy. Remember that laughter and judgment are fleeting, but kindness is everlasting. You might be planting a seed that grows into something far bigger than you could imagine. In a world that can sometimes feel cold and indifferent, let this story remind us that one act of kindness can change everything. You never know who might be watching, learning, or inspired by your actions. And sometimes, the people who laugh first are the very ones who end up learning the most important lesson of all. So, if you've ever hesitated to do something kind because you were afraid of being laughed at or judged, let Tom's story be your courage. Take that step. Feed that hungry animal, help that neighbor, or simply smile at someone having a rough day. The smallest act, done with love and intention, has the power to ripple through lives, communities, and even the world. And remember, sometimes, the laughter isn't the end, it's just the beginning of a story that will inspire, uplift, and remind us all that kindness wins in the end.